All right. Another story we're following. The New York Times now admitting the infamous Hunter Biden laptop does indeed exist. The paper writing this, quote, "Those emails were obtained by the New York Times from a cache of files that appears to have come from a laptop abandoned by Mr. Biden in a Delaware repair shop. The email and others in the cache were authenticated by people familiar with them and with the investigation," end quote. Again, a tear there. But back in September of 2021, the Times saying in a now deleted tweet, by the way, the story is, quote, "unsubstantiated." It comes Hunter and the Biden administration, comes as the Hunter and Biden administration denied the allegations of the laptop, calling it Russian propaganda. We have our panelists joining us for this topic here today. We're pleased to have prosecutor and Newsmax columnist Wendy Patrick, Barak Lurie, though, right there, trial attorney. Good to see you. And thanks so much for both of you to come on. There's Wendy. Wendy, I'll start with you on this one here. Making a lot of headway here. This was considered Russian disinformation, and now it's being reported on. Your thoughts?
You know, Sean, my thoughts are there is no administration that should dig their heels in on a public statement or a public stance on an issue that's under investigation. Because this is what happens. And of course, at the very beginning, you can call anything Russian disinformation. It's a very broad term. It could mean anything. But that didn't mean that the investigation stopped. And what often happens is when you can authenticate something, and I do have to admit it's suspicious enough that anybody would abandon their laptop at a repair shop. But given that fact that we live on our laptops and everything is important, the investigation ultimately was concluded to be authentic. So Jen Psaki's engaging in brand management. That's her job. And even if she's not going to read the book or not going to look at the headlines, she also has to account for the fact that even the Times came out and found this to be authentic.
Right. And Wendy, we recall, it did seem kind of like a far-fetched story when it came out. But the fact that the New York Post was able to authenticate the laptop and then share their reporting on social media, which we recall was quickly silenced, right? They weren't able to access their Twitter account. You weren't able to share this story. Now the New York Times acknowledging that it is true. Barak, Lurie, what does that tell you about media and also big tech, quite frankly, when it comes to censorship on stories that might not be so flattering for certain individuals?
Well, it's never good when it looks like the fix is in when it comes to this or that particular media outlet, like the New York Times. And the New York Times now is now becoming the Johnny-come-lately enterprise, right? This is not the first time. They are now saying about the Hunter laptop, of course, on the southern border. So there are a lot of issues there. But look, the single greatest thing I think that Jen Psaki could do, and for that matter, the administration, is to simply say, we were wrong about this. And it turns out there was a laptop and it's concerning, but let's let the investigation play out as it will. And that's the only thing and the only legitimate thing that she could say. But to me, the most interesting thing is the effect that this has on the average voter when they have a distrust of the New York Times and other leftist media outlets, and how that will impact not only November 2022, but also in 24 as well. So I think that people will begin to scratch their heads and wonder whether they really can trust the media at this point.
You mentioned White House press secretary. So finally, here it is, the exchange, her being pressed about this New York Times article and her response. Watch.
The New York Times has authenticated emails that appear to have come from a laptop abandoned by Hunter Biden in Delaware. The president previously said that the New York Post story about this was a bunch of garbage and that it was a Russian plant. Does he stand by that assessment?
I've pointed the Department of Justice and also to Hunter Biden's representatives. He doesn't work in the government.
You also, in October 2020, dismissed it as Russian disinformation. Do you stand by that assessment?
Again, I pointed to the Department of Justice and Hunter Biden's representatives. I'm a spokesperson for the United States. He doesn't work for the United States.
You'd argue there that she is a spokesperson for President Biden. However, this is a tweet from Psaki back in 2020. She called it, "Hunter Biden story is Russian disinfo," dozens of former intel officials say. So, again, there it is. Passing the buck, Wendy, to the DOJ, to the State Department. Your final thoughts on that?
My final thoughts that there's a fine line where distraction becomes an issue of credibility. And that appears to be the line that Jen Psaki is straddling. And obviously, she's not the one in court making the arguments, comparing the signatures or digital trails or whatever else they use to authenticate emails. But what she is doing is representing the White House. And in doing so, there are probably other things that she's going to say in the future that really maybe distance her from this investigation. But one of them cannot be, this is simply a distraction, because credibility counts when you're representing the president.
All right, Wendy, Patrick, Barak, Lurie, we appreciate your time, panelists. Thank you very much.
Thanks, panelists. Have a wonderful weekend. All right, coming up right here on National Report. Listen.
You started this war. You're leading this war. You can stop this war.
Former Republican governor of California and actor Arnold Schwarzenegger giving an emotional plea to end the Russian invasion of Ukraine. We discuss details after this break.